The following audio is from Maple City Baptist Church in Chatham, Ontario. For more information about Maple City, please visit us online at maplecitybaptistchurch.com.
Okay, question number 4. This question has to do with fasting, and it's a two-part question. The first part is, what is biblical fasting? And the second part is, what does it look like? When is it appropriate? And is it relevant to us today? And I gotta say, as I was studying for this was the question that was most convicting for me. Because I think it's an area, spiritual discipline, that I neglect probably more than other spiritual disciplines in my life. So what is biblical fasting? Fasting is the deliberate abstinence from physical nourishment or desires in favor of spiritual nourishment or answers to prayer. So what you're doing when you're fasting is you're saying, right now my soul and my relationship with God is more important than my physical body, than feeding my physical body. And it demonstrates dependence upon God. It demonstrates a commitment to God above physical needs. And it demonstrates humility. I think all of these things are very good. They're very helpful. And so when we're talking about fasting, it's not that fasting is like a magic lamp where you rub it, you fast for the right amount of time, and God will say, okay, poof, your request is granted. I really think that God instituted the idea of fasting and how fasting works for our benefit more than for His benefit. He's not just sitting there waiting for His children to stop eating food. That doesn't give Him a weird kind of delight. But what does give Him delight is when His children stop focusing so much on the physical things in their life and start depending upon Him more. And being more committed to Him and thinking more about Him and praying with more fervency, being serious about their prayer life. And I mean, what a great thing when you have a situation and your response is, I'm going to fast. What you're saying is, God, you're the one that can change this. You're the one that can help me. There's nothing physically that I can do. And so my best bet, my best response is to go to you and say, God, I have nothing. I'm just for a while not even going to eat, not going to do anything physical because I believe you can do something. You can do something that I can't. So I think it is a wonderful thing. It's interesting to note that fasting is not commanded anywhere in the New Testament. So we're never commanded to fast, but the Bible presents fasting as something that is good and expected of a Christian. In Matthew chapter 9, verse 14, it says, then came him the disciples of John. So now the disciples of John the Baptist are coming to Jesus with a question, saying, why do we and the Pharisees fast often, but thy disciples fast not? And Jesus said unto them, can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, and then they shall fast. So there's no command there to fast, but there is an expectation that that will happen when the bridegroom is taken from them. And now Christ is in heaven, and now we're here on earth, and we have this expectation of a future meeting with the bridegroom. But right now, He's not here. And so Jesus' expectation is that His disciples would fast. What does it look like? When is it appropriate? Is it relevant to us? Well, the book of Acts records believers fasting before they made important decisions and when they needed a certain amount of power for a group of people. Okay, so they fasted prior to choosing Paul and Barnabas to go on a missionary journey. They fasted immediately after choosing elders in every city so that they would have wisdom and power to lead their people well. They fasted to help that church. And often fasting and fervent prayer go together. Daniel, in the Old Testament, fasted to be able to interpret dreams. Jesus said that His disciples must fast in order to be able to cast out certain demons. So there are some things that they could not do just through prayer, that fasting was necessary. Nehemiah fasted and prayed before going to the king to ask for time off and supplies. Yeah, terrifying thing for Nehemiah to do. And so what he needed to do is he needed to go to God, and fasting was the best way to do that. Say, God, you're the one that has to do this. People fasted because they had needs that they wanted God to meet. People fasted in the Bible because they needed deliverance or deliverance for someone else. People fasted because they needed guidance, especially in the area of ministry. They fasted for power, they fasted for the provision of God, and they fasted mostly just because they wanted God to answer their prayer. And again, fasting is not a magic lamp that we rub. It's not that you fast enough. Sometimes God doesn't answer your prayer. David, we just spoke about. It was a perfect example of that. He was fasting and praying so that God would save his son when his son was sick. And God's answer was no. David, I told you this was what would happen because of your sin. And so it happened. And the answer was no. However, there are many times in the Bible where people fast and they see God work in wonderful ways. And so I think that fasting, certainly in North America, we don't like it because we don't like to say no to anything in our flesh. I think it's something that it's not commanded. It's not something you have to do. But I really think it's a spiritual discipline that would be more helpful for us if we were to do it, if we were to practice it more often. I think it would be a great idea for our church or for people in our church to say, there's this need, I'm going to fast about it. There's this person that's sick, I'm just going to fast and pray that God will be with them and take care of them and maybe heal them if that's what he decides to do. Okay? There's many opportunities we have to fast. And I've seen other people do it, and I think, you know what it's done is it's put that person in the right place in their mind. That what they've done is they've in their mind said, God, I need you more than anything else. And I don't need all of this stuff in my life. Whatever it is, whatever you're abstaining from, I don't need that like I need you. I need to feed my soul more than I need to feed my body. And so it is a wonderful thing for Christians to do. I think with that answer, we will wrap it up for tonight. Just in conclusion, remember that the Bible is for our minds, our hands, and our hearts. And so what it should do when we read the Word of God is it should change how we think, it should change the decisions we make, and it should change how we act. May we allow the Word of God to do that in our lives.